There are several ways we can be our own worst enemy. Some of those are obvious, some of those are a bit more sneaky. And I believe the sneakiest of them all is we are often told that we are this or we are that way, or we sometimes have glimpses. So maybe I am this way, or maybe I am that way, but we deny it. And we deny it because that's not how we see ourselves. And we can't be how we see ourselves. We can't be different than what we see ourselves. The way we are is how we see ourselves, right? Not really, but that's how we interpret things. And our ego wouldn't allow us to think less than what we are or what he believes. And the truth is, even if we did realize, oh, maybe we are the way they tell us, or maybe I am this, I am seeing that I am this. The truth is, we don't know how to be someone else. We don't know how to be different. So, no, I am this. What does it help me if I don't know how to be different? So, even though it's not the best to go on being like this, it's something I don't like about myself. But I, I better I better go on doing it or being it because it's the only thing I know how to be, which is obviously wrong. But since we don't have the tools how to change, it's the only thing we can do. And then our life feels like going in circles. We tend to meet the same kind of people, the same kind of circumstances, not the same place, but um, in the same places. For instance, in work, in social life, in well, I guess that gets everything, but and family and love relationships, we always end up having the same problems. So if it's not them, maybe it's us. But what in us makes us go through those just through those situations? That's what makes us think. What is wrong with us? And we try to fix whatever is wrong with us. If we don't get along with people, we try to find out how to get along with people, and we do our best to get along with people. If we are disorganized, we try to find out how to be organized, and we do our best to be organized. If we are bad with money, we do our best to learn how to be good with money. But for some reason, whatever it is, whatever result we usually get, we end up getting, even though we make all these efforts to not get them or to get different results. So we end up getting frustrated. We end up losing hope, and it's like, well, I know I'm wrong, but I'm going to keep being wrong because I don't know how to be right. Even with the we can we can keep the progress we've found through the things we've learned, but we know regardless that progress, we're still going to find the same things, the same situation, maybe not as strong, but it's still there, it's still the same thing. And not having hope is not um, a good place to be. So, what if we are trying to solve the wrong problem? And what if we're not even trying to solve the problem? What if what we're trying to solve is just the symptom? In a way, we know it is because we keep getting the same situations, regardless of how much we try. But as humans, we all have things in common. If we look at some of those things and compare them with our lives, we can tell if we have them or not, and we may even identify the ones that are a major role in our getting in circles in life. So once we know what makes us be like that, a characteristic or the lack of something, we can try to become the opposite or of that characteristic and pursue what we are missing. I'm sure there are other ways of doing this. This is just what I found. I don't even know if it works, but it's what I'm going to try. And I'm talking we because um, it's easier for me to put outside of myself and look at myself as if I was someone else, and then to be in myself and dealing with it. Because it, when I look at myself as myself, I get emotion. I'm in those emotions. When I look at myself as if I was someone else, I can detach a bit and be a little bit more rational, a bit more logic, and honestly, a better advisor to myself. So that's why I sometimes often use the we. That's when I'm analyzing, and when I use the I, it's when I'm. This is what I've decided. This is what I'm doing. Um, Let me see. I've found in the past 2 years I found what the lack of something is. It's been 2 years and I've hardly made a thing because it was painful discovery. It was a very painful discovery. It was an extremely painful discovery. I've mentioned in a previous video that realizing that we aren't the way we believe we were is one of the most painful experiences mentally and emotionally that we can go through because well, it just is. And it took me 2 years to finally decide, okay, I know what things are and I need to start making something about them. So I found them 2 years ago. They are specific. They have a number, and each have a sub. Uh, each lag has other lags, tiny lags that we can go to the big one, or we can try to achieve the tiny ones, and by achieving the tiny ones, we end up achieving the big ones. The characteristics. I try to look at characteristics that would be at the same regardless the culture, regardless the country, and I end up realizing that the capital sins would be the ones that adapt to it the best, because regardless the country, regardless the culture, usually they they are considered bad. So I wrote them down. I found out that there are two more, so not just 7, 9. There were, then they changed, but I decided 9. I wrote them down, and I wrote what they meant, and I wrote their opposite. I don't have here what I've written down initially. I just have the opposite, and I just have one word for the opposite. So it was a good exercise to find out what they mean and their opposites, because there were several words, and I was able to choose the word I could identify more. And it might be different for you. This is just the words that I identified more. So, knowing now what we might be needing and knowing what the characteristics that might be the less good in us, we can. And what would that be? Well, we can find out what we need to fulfill the needs, the human needs that every human being needs. And we can find out what we can do to get the opposite of, to become the opposite of the capital sins. So I'm not going to write what are the 12 human needs. It's not my work. It's not something I even know how to talk about. I'll put the link below with a video for for it. That's the lengthy video. It has a lot of minutes because it describes each need and each sub need of it. It's a slap in the face video. It's a slap in the face video. If you think you're cool, okay, don't need it, don't watch it. If you think you have, well, maybe one or two things that might be better, watch it with caution. And what I mean is, let's say he talks about one of the needs and you identify yourself with it and it hurts, stop. Just stay with that one. Don't move on. Just stop the video and allow yourself to think about that need for some hours or some days, I don't know, and only after you make peace with yourself, after realizing that that need hasn't been met, then go and watch the rest. That's what I should have done. um, but I don't know what I was. I didn't knew what I was going into. I didn't know what to expect, and I've taken the whole full blown of it, and that's why it took me 2 years to move, because I couldn't even digest all that's in it, and it ends up being painful. If you don't want to see the full version, you can look up to see the tiniest version. I don't know what it is, haven't found it, but I believe this is the most important one, because not only it says what they are, the 12 big ones, but it gives you the tiny ones, and I think the best is the tiny ones because they are a little bit more reachable. As for the capital sense, so I've wrote them down. The opposite, the words that for me are the opposite of them. So humbleness, or being humble, versus pride; generosity versus greed; charity and detachment from things versus envy; serenity versus rage; purity versus lust; moderation versus gluttony, or being, uh, gluttony, being, yeah, wanting to eat too much; effort versus laziness; enthusiasm versus sadness; and on unostentatious versus vanity. I wanted to put also unpretentious, unpretentious, unostentatious or unpretentious versus vanity, because I believe the are the words that are easier to understand, um, to be the opposite of vanity, not being vanity being ostentatious, not being vanity being unostentatious, and vanity also being pretentious and not vanity being unpretentious. But I didn't put the other one because I didn't think it's a very useful word. And then, and then, we're talking about 21 things, yes. 12 needs and 9 characteristics. We're talking about 12, 21 things in 11 months, because we're already in February. We no longer have 1 year. We already only have 11 months. It's a lot. I'm not naive in order to believe that in 11 months I will change that much. So we can choose. What are the needs we are lacking the most? Or what, if those are too hard to get, what needs can we easily fulfill? And choose 2 or 3 of those. in a way, because it's just two or three, it gives us something to look forward at. At the same time, we fill our cup by getting the first needs met. So we have a few, but we still have a few to go. Instead of, oh, when we reach all this, well, what next? We will we will be fulfilling our needs and dealing with whatever it means. I don't know what it is, but we will definitely change. There's no doubt about that. um, Gradually, at the same time, we are still striving to fulfill other needs, instead of, okay, I've changed all this, and now what? Doesn't feel sometimes reaching goals when it makes us feel like a dead end. And this way, it's reaching goals at the same time. We still have goals to reach. And when we get all those needs met, and I hope we get them all met, when we have all those needs met, we will have had time to be with them long enough to know what's next, and it won't be reaching the 12th need, or fulfilling the 12th need, and asking the question, oh my god, what's next? It will be, we will naturally know what to do next, what is what follows that. And it won't be in the form of a question. It will be in the form of of a plan already probably thought of before that need was met, and it's not something that has to be done. It's something that feels natural to do, because we will then be who we really are, and then we'll know what to do. Um, yeah, that's what I mean with, in a way, it gives us something to look forward. At the same time, we fill our cup by getting the needs met. Regarding characteristics, choose the one that hurts us the most. For me, is laziness. I think I mentioned it recently. The lack of effort, and that's the one I'm going to try to change now. And even though there are only 9, I'm only going to try one, because I already have 3 needs to try to met. Each need has several sub needs, so it's going to be a lot. And B, I mean, let's face it, we can't do it all, and I'm not going to try to do it all. This being lazy is one of the worst. There are others, and I realize that, and I'm going to keep. I have an order of them for me, and I'm going to keep an eye on them, in the sense of, now that I'm aware of them. Whenever I feel I am being, or starting to be or act that way, I will have, I will try to stop myself, in the sense of, okay, I'm being like this. I may not know how to act properly. I may not know how to do the opposite, but at least I will realize, okay, I'm doing this. Maybe I should stop. I don't know how. But I will try to stop, even if it looks, I wouldn't say stupid, but even if I'm like in the middle of something and and then I stop and it looks strange, I will allow myself to look strange. I will allow myself to look weird. I will allow my ego to be looked at, made fun of, because if by doing that I can stop hurting myself by acting in a way I know it's bad for me, then my ego getting hurt, it might, well, it will hurt, but it's just the ego, it's not me. It's as if we're two. It's as if I'm the human being, and the ego is whatever it is that had to step in to help me But now it has taken over, and I can't allow it to take over. We have to work together. And in a way, it's like a lesson for it. Like, look, you're not in charge anymore. We are going to communicate, and you'll have to do what I believe to be right and not what you believe to be right, if that makes sense. So there's no guarantee we'll overcome anything, but there's merit in trying, really trying. And if we can be a little bit less bad than we were, then we become a little bit better. And hopefully, trying continuously, we'll end up becoming what we want, like a water and a rock that over time ends up getting a hole in the rock, and we will, regardless, we end up really becoming how we would like to be, and reaching all the needs, and changing all the characteristics into the ones we would like to. We will throughout have this, our needs met, and we'll be transforming ourselves into a better person all the time.